Basics to establishing the canon of scriptures begin with these following questions. How to determine what books belong in the canon of scriptures? Does the inspired text begin with Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 and ends with Revelation chapter 22 verse 21? Why is there discrepancy between Protestant and Catholic versions? The Bible was not written by one human author, nor was it done all at one time. It took hundreds of years to write and later arranged in collections and combined to form one single book, now called the Bible. No list ever existed within the inspired text as to which books belong in the Bible. The Christian Bible has two parts, the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Hebrew scriptures do not use the term Old Testament, since that would imply there exists the New Testament. When discussing passages from Old Testament with a person of the Jewish faith, it is best to use the terms like Hebrew scriptures. The Torah is the collection of the first 5 books consisting of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Number, and Deuteronomy. According to a tradition, Moses wrote or edited and put together these books. Christians refer to these books as the Pentateuch from the Greek words penta and theokos, meaning 5 scrolls. We have already seen the Jews typically refer to the first 5 books as the Torah, meaning the law. Since the law of Moses predominates the 5 books, the Torah is combined with the Nevi'im and the Ketuvim. The acronym Tanakh is formed from these 3 groupings of books. How did some books get chosen to be in the canon of scriptures? Catholic and Orthodox churches rely on the teaching authority of the Church as competent deciding factor. They also believe that one of their missions is to protect and interpret the scriptures as well as to obey and implement them. Most Protestant church depends on scriptures alone, sola scriptura, for authority, yet still question which books belong in the Bible. They use the principle invoked by Saint Vincent of Lerins in AD 434, that which has been believed everywhere, always and by all, quod ubique semper et ab omnibus. This principle relies on what has been established universally most of the time and by mostly everyone as point of authority to rely on. Saint Vincent of Lerins was an ecclesiastical writer who lived in southern Gaul, modern-day France, in the 5th century. He believed that the ultimate source of Christian truth was Holy Scripture, and that the authority of the Church was to be invoked to guarantee the correct interpretation of Scripture. In AD 170, Melito of Sardis declared the collections of Hebrew scriptures found in the Jerusalem Church as the official Old Testament canon for Asia Minor. The doctors of the Church, St. Athanasius and St. Gregory Nazianzus, recognized only the Palestinian Hebrew canon for the Old Testament and rejected the Alexandrian Greek canon. St. Jerome had some personal reservation about including the deuterocanonical books of the Old Testament, but did so anyway when he translated the Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic texts into the Latin Vulgate. St. Augustine fully endorsed the older Greek canon in AD 397, as did the Third Council of Carthage that same year, and Pope Innocent I in AD 405. King Ptolemy II, Philadelphus of Egypt, established a magnificent library at Alexandria and wanted to enrich it with a copy of sacred books of the Jews. Since the Babylonian captivity and subsequent diaspora, the Jewish people could no longer read, write, or speak Hebrew. Most of them fluent in Greek, a lingua franca of the time. It became necessary to translate all the Hebrew texts into Greek. In 250 BC, 70 Jewish scholars took 70 days around the clock to translate the Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim into Greek. The Greek term Septuagint means the number 70. The Palestinian Jews rejected the Septuagint as being an impure version, for it is not a Hebrew version, with books originally in Hebrew version. The Greek Septuagint had collected 46 books total, 7 of which were originally written in Greek. Those 7 books would be a source of controversy for centuries to come. The Septuagint is abbreviated with the Roman numerals LXX, which equals 70. Palestinian Canon referred only to the books of Hebrew Scripture, which the Jews recognized in about AD 100 at the Council of Jamnia. The Septuagint canon was the one which was used by the Christian communities, and this was said to be one of the reasons why the Jewish communities needed Palestinian canon to distinguish from the Christian canon. By the 1st century BC, the Alexandrian Greek canon was well known and used even by the Jews of the Holy Land. By Jesus' time, it was an unwritten presumption that a complete list of 46 books was allowable for study and worship. The Jews in the diaspora who did not live in the Holy Land and who were not fluent in the Hebrew language widely accepted the Septuagint. In AD 100, Jerusalem officially rejected both the Greek language of the text and the addition of the 7 extra books, Tobit, Judith, Wisdom, Sirach, Baruch, 1 and 2 Maccabees, as well as additions of Daniel and Esther. The Council of Laodicea and the Third Council of Carthage declared the number of books for the New Testament to be 27. All of them were originally written in Greek. In AD 394, St. Jerome translated them into Latin and compiled the complete Bible containing both the Old and New Testaments. The fact that the original 7 apocryphal books were not written in Hebrew was not an issue, because all the New Testament books were written in Greek. Jewish scholars did not officially denounce these books until AD 100, when they wanted to eliminate any additions of anything not Jewish or Hebrew into the text of the Hebrew Testament after the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans in AD 70. Protestants embraced the Palestinian Jewish canon of the Old Testament after the Reformation. Relying on Scripture alone, Protestants often invoked the Vincentian canon to determine what belongs to the Christian faith, that which had been believed everywhere, always, and by all. Please go to YouTube Retirementality channel for the complete series of these introductory materials for Bible studies.